Welcome to Northern Now, the digital event series presented by NMU Alumni Relations for Alumni and Friends. My name is Kylie Bunting. I'm the Digital Engagement Architect of Alumni Relations here at NMU, and I'm so glad that you've joined us tonight for this panel discussion. We're excited to continue this series and share insight from a panel of artists and designers from the NMU School of Art and Design. But first, I just want to go through a couple of logistics. Oh, and not play music again. First of all, while we are unable to see and hear you in this webinar format, we still want to hear from you. So please use the Q&A function. Christine, our moderator, will be monitoring that. So send in any questions for our panelists there. Also, you can use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to chat with fellow alumni and friends who are also tuning in. Please note that in the chat window, there's a drop-down menu to send chats to hosts and panelists or everyone. The default is host and panelists, so make sure you change that to everyone so you can chat with other people who are joining us on the webinar tonight. And some upcoming events. Northern Now takes place the second Wednesday of every month. In April, we will have a family-friendly book reading with NMU alumnus, author, motivational speaker, and TikTok influencer, Mylan Murphy. We also are having an alumni night at Little Caesars Arena for the Detroit Red Wings versus Columbus Blue Jackets game on April 9th. This special offer includes a discounted tickets to the game, a limited edition Red Wings beanie in gold and green, and a gift to NMU student scholarships. You can purchase tickets for the Wings game now on our website. And also save the date. Homecoming 2022 is September 23rd through 24th. I also want to just take a quick moment to mention Wildcats Connect, which is a platform for alumni and students to ask and offer advice. It's a great way to help out NMU students stay connected to the university and get in touch with fellow alumni. And of course, follow us on social media to keep up with all the things that we are doing and keep up with some great alumni stories. Now I'd like to welcome our moderator for the evening, Christine Lenzen, Associate Professor of Photography in NMU School of Art and Design. Welcome, Christine, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be introducing tonight's panelists of artists and designers for what I'm sure will be a great conversation. A reminder, feel free to share your questions for the panelists in the question and answer function at any time. I will be watching that. So first, I would like to introduce Chris LaRose, a 2014 graphics alumnus and current director of UX strategy at Elegant Seagulls, a digital creative agency. After a career in youth development, Chris decided to attend college at Northern. And he has worked for Elegant Seagulls ever since graduation. He's worn many hats over his 10 years with the company. Welcome, Chris. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks so much, Christine. I really appreciate it. After graduating from NMU, I stayed at Elegant Seagulls, which is based in Marquette, Michigan, but I am actually in the Lower Peninsula now in Auburn Hills, Michigan, working remote for Elegant Seagulls. I was the first remote employee there way before the pandemic and way before everything changed. But I wanted to be closer with my family. A big part of my identity now, on top of the Elegant Seagulls stuff, is I'm a dad, balancing that part of my life with work and freelance and hobbies and all that stuff. So thanks for having me today.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you. Next, I would like to welcome Sabrina Langdon, also a 2014 alumna and current owner of Sabrina Lay Studios, a local wedding photography company. Sabrina is an art teacher turned wedding photographer with a love for all things aesthetic. She received her art education degree from NMU and concentrated in photography. After teaching for 3 years, she resigned from teaching art to pursue her photography business, Sabrina Lay Studios, full-time. For 7 years, Sabrina has been actively serving her clients as a relationship photographer specializing in weddings and elopements in Marquette, Michigan. Welcome, Sabrina. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I feel like I've gotten to where I am now because I had so many great mentors and people in the community. So I'm just really grateful to be able to pay it forward and being a part of this panel today. You covered it really well. I, loved being an art teacher, but I also really love having my own business and the autonomy that comes from that. And my time at Northern, I think, really helped me to have a unique vision in the way that I like to shoot. And it also has helped me to, actually stay in touch with painting and making art for myself as well. And so you'll see a combination of those things going through. And I do like to paint as well. And you can see some of my paintings at the gallery downtown where I sell some of my work. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Excellent, thank you. And last but not least, we have Nika Hatfield, who is a 2020 ceramics alumna and current owner of Neat Creative Co., a local handmade ceramics and home decor business. She is native to the Marquette area and loves the outdoors and connecting with the local community. Her ceramic work is based around authentic and conscious living, and the shop is also a hub for other local artists to show their work. Welcome, Nika, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Christine. I am also incredibly excited to be here and really honored to just be a part of this continued conversation. I know that my time at Northern was so pivotal in how I'm approaching my life and artwork. So to continue having that conversation, like Sabrina said, is beautiful. But yeah, I'm born and raised in the Marquette area. Never really planned on being an artist. It was something that I always did as a kid. I was always making things, and creating is definitely a way of life for me. But when I got to Northern, I took a pottery class and instantly fell in love. And so years later, here I am with a studio. And, it's something that has led me as much as I have led it. And clay is, I fell in love with it. And I also dabble in a lot of mediums, but this is my mainstay. So I bought the studio where I am now a year and a half ago about. I trained with Michelle, who owned Revisions Design Studio before me, and now I took over her line of work, and I'm also taking it my own direction. And I'm just really interested in bringing consciousness to living more and doing that through art. So either by creating some of my sculptural pieces from when I was at Northern, creating pieces that cause people to look and think deeper. And now just with the work that I'm creating with home decor and things you can have around the house, I want you to pick up a mug and have it be something special. So you can take a step back for a moment and be like, oh, I'm drinking out of this handmade mug. In the morning, maybe you take a moment to just be with that. So that mission is definitely kind of just a main core to how I work as an artist in all the different facets.
I love that. I'm a huge advocate for handmade pottery, and my mother is also on this call right now. She's listening in on us, and she knows how much we both just adore our special coffee mugs, right? So
everyone has one, right?
Yeah. And we have several, so yeah. So I love that. I love that approach. Yeah. So I want to welcome everybody who's here listening to our conversation, and thank you for joining us. I'll jump right into some questions that we do have prepared for the panelists. But I want to remind you that we want to hear from you. So go ahead and put any questions you have for either everyone or individual people in the question and answer section, and we're happy to answer anything you have going on. So I feel like all three of you are in this really interesting spot. I'm throwing one at you that wasn't on our list. Okay, I know. But all three of you are in this interesting spot in that you're three creative people, went to art school, went to design school, and yet you're all also business people or in sort of the business world, either working for clients or making work that you're hoping people will purchase. How do you guys balance sort of your either creative vision for something, Chris, that you might have, you know, versus like what a client might want, or Sabrina and Nika, you know, how do you balance your, you know, what you want to do personally, creatively, versus, you know, Nika, you're in production now. Sabrina, you've got clients that you're working for. Where's that balance for you guys? Why don't we start with Chris?
I think the hardest part about balancing it is, at least in my field, is there is end goals that you have to keep in mind. So usually there's a compromise that's happening, whether it's you want someone to convert and make a sale, right, from a very sales and marketing focused perspective, or you're looking for someone to leave with like an impression of that site or that brand or whatever that space is that you're designing for. So usually it ends up being really iterative, where you're providing your best take. You know, this is what we think is the right way, backing that with research and decision making and that whole process. And then kind of that just going back and forth until you get to an end result where both people are happy. Sometimes there's those moments where you don't see eye to eye, but it's kind of rare in this industry where that happens. The other balance is you got to do this stuff, especially in my field. You have to have like pet projects that you want to work on to kind of see things, you know, further, and explore it further, or whatever you want to do there, because you're not always going to get it on the client side, which is a tough balance. If you're working, you know, in this industry, it's pretty standard to work 40 to 50, a lot of times 50 to 60. To find the time to do it is tough. But when I have freelanced, I have went and sought out those types of individuals that might align more with what I want to do. Comic City is a comic chain down here, local business, and I went and sought them out. I did it super cheap because I wanted to do it. So there's things like that I was able to balance.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sure that working sort of on your pet projects or searching out things you want to do helps you grow your skills some more too, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you just get stale because you might not get all the type of work you want. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Good. How about you, Sabrina?
This is a great question. I think with me, I am not doing quite as many projects in a year as like a designer might be doing, because mine's more specific to weddings and it's a very short season. So I really have to cap how many people I end up working with. But because of that, I can be more selective. And I think I do my best to really show myself and my brand on social media, on my website. I am very real, like above my contact form. I say like, hey, if you're just checking a box for wedding photography, then I might not be the best fit for you. And that's okay, because you deserve somebody who is going to be the best fit for you. However, this is what I'm about. I'm all about like capturing these moments, but also working in an artistic lens. And when I do my inquiry calls with my clients, I'm also kind of like vetting them in that way as well. And we're seeing if we're a good fit. And it even says on my contact form, like, let's see if we're a good fit. If you're like, if we're both vibing, then like this will be good. But also, I think like I've been in the business for a little bit while. I've gotten to a point where I feel like people do have to invest in order to work with me. And I think that also kind of makes it so that like people are really excited to like book me and my work in particular. So all that to say, I have a kind of consistent style that I've been showing, and usually I'm working with clients who want that specific style. So I don't feel like I have to go against what I want to be doing, because we're already in alignment in that way. So there's a lot of different variables to make sure that we are in alignment. But it's
that comes together. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. And Nika, I mean, your production now. Are you finding any time to do other sort of creative work, or?
I would say a lot of my creative work comes out in other ways. So whether it be music, or doing other forms of art. And as I was thinking about that question, the art project has just gotten bigger at this point, and it's the business, you know. It's like I've had a lot of fun coming up with the design of, you know, how I want the storefront to be laid out, how I want you know, my business to feel? What is my brand and how does that come across? So I kind of have been approaching like a bigger scope of that, because I also have a team of people working for me. So I am, you know, doing a lot of the work still, but I also have other hands. So for me to put an art label on that, it starts to get into a new spot for me. But in the design process and moving forward of where I want to go, I'm just approaching that as the art right now. And I'm also new. So there's like, you know, that's where I'm at right now, but I would love to keep bringing back more like super fine art in other ways, like through sculpture or lighting design in the future.
Yeah, no, I actually, I love that answer. The idea of expanding what the art actually is and taking that to, you know, the business side of things. And yeah, I think that's great. I love that. Great. Okay, so how do you, well, since we're obviously doing this with alumni and we're thinking about alumni stuff and Northern, do you guys feel like, how do you feel like your education at NMU prepared you for where you are today? We'll go back to the list. I don't know if we want to take it and do a different order, the same order. Chris, if you want to kick us off.
I can start. Yeah, I think above all else is the community that NMU is a part of is really important. If it wasn't for the teachers being involved in the community and NMU being involved in that sense, I wouldn't have been presented with the same opportunities or known where to look or keep an eye out for them. My professor, Keith Ellis, was aware of Elegant Seagulls. So when he knew I was interested in design, but also web development, he you know, said, well, you should check out Elegant Seagulls. I was able to start, you know, being kind of involved and keeping an eye on that, and then make decisions, you know, from there to kind of get involved at Elegant Seagulls. And I think that was like really, you know, that's what my career's been from that moment on. So I think that for me is the most important part, is that kind of the professors being engaged with the community and NMU being there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Sabrina? I know you've sort of switched around careers, but.
Yes. Well, I feel like I could say so many things, but what comes up the most in my mind is I was really involved in the Student Leader Fellowship Program, and I was an RA, and so I learned a lot about leadership and community building. So very similar to what Chris was saying as well, that like community was really big for me. And I think now moving into my business, I'm big on community. I want to interact with other photographers in the area. We're all very close and we help each other grow. And I'm doing that with this workshop that we're putting on to help newer photographers learn how to like create their own businesses. I love that kind of thing. And so that has
Is that the cabin series? Is that right?
Yes, the cabin series. Yeah, the cabin series workshop is something that I do with other photographers to help newer photographers. So I love that community, but also trying to create a community with my clients as well, so they can help each other, because wedding planning is really challenging, especially in the last 2 years. And so feeling like the leadership that I've learned at Northern has really helped me in that business sense.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Nika?
Yeah, it has set me up. I wouldn't be here in any regard if it hadn't been for Northern. Like Chris said, the interactions with the professors and like working closely with people is so important. But also I think how, at least for me in my journey, how I showed up at Northern, like it was talked about. So Michelle, I had never met Michelle, and she offered to sell me the studio the first time I met her because she had heard about me. So just from that standpoint of, you know, what I was doing at Northern, it was like I was showing the world who I was and how I wanted to work with it. And just that opens up opportunities, and the people that I got to meet and the experiences and opportunities I got to have through Northern, like has set my life up in these ways that I am able to do this. And And also something that is really fascinating to me, like the projects I even did while in undergrad and in those classes, like I designed sets of dinnerware that I never ended up making. I had an interest in translucent porcelain lighting when I was there and was like doing these very beginning playing around with those ideas. And that's where I am now, and just being able to continue those projects. So, you know, I think sometimes all those projects were like, oh, it's just, we have to do it, put it in and get an A or whatever. But they're also like the heart of, if we're following that path, you know, what makes your work once you get out of school. So
yeah, they can start informing, the direction that you go in. I love that. Yeah, that's great. So we've got a couple of questions here. The first one is from Jennifer, who is actually in my class right now. Hi, Jennifer. And she is wondering if you guys knew for sure what you wanted to major in or concentrate in at NMU before you started college. And if you switched around or tried different things, or if you knew you wanted to do art and maybe your specific concentration when you landed here.
I actually, in 2005, I enrolled as an English major, and then being that far away from family was too hard, and I left. And then, you know, life kind of has a way of changing your perspective on things. And then when I re-enrolled in graphic communications for a lot of different reasons. But no, I didn't know 100% what I was looking to do right away. It changed over time.
Yeah. And Sabrina, we know you switched careers, but did you know you wanted to do photography and art education?
I did not. I remember when I came, I was a transfer student. And so I was at my transfer orientation, and I knew I wanted to do something in art. I figured art education would be good because I didn't know what else I could do. It just was like oblivious at that point. And they were just like, all of our classes are filled except a photography class, like, you game. And I loved it. And I thought I was going to be a painting major because I love to paint. That's been my medium. But when it came to deciding, what I thought was just like, well, I know less about photography. Like, I know I will paint no matter what, but I don't know if I will dive deeper into photography if I don't move forward with it. And so that's why I chose photography, because I just want to learn more about it. And I had no idea it would turn out to be like this. And now photography is my main medium, and I hardly ever paint anymore, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, that's awesome.
I would have to say I like have a very like a mix between those two stories. I also started out as an English major. I like enrolled in a pottery class because I was like, I want to try it. I can't just like buy paintbrushes and paint and do it at home, which is how I learned all my other art mediums. And I was like, okay, well, I can go learn how to throw, and fell in love with it. And I think, yeah, it was an easy decision, kind of like Sabrina says, it's like, that's where I can learn more. I like walked into the ceramic studio and I'm like, there is so much to learn here that I won't learn anywhere else. And, you know, some days I'm like, how did I end up with clay as my medium? But all the other pieces also inform. So I think any of the other classes I took are a part of what I do anyways. So yeah, they're all, I think when you're an artist, you create and you might have your specific medium, but no matter what, all the other parts touch it.
Yep. And, you know, and I didn't go to Northern, but I did go to art school, and I will also say that I did not know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to major in environmental studies. And my very first semester of undergrad, I got both into the intro environmental studies course and an intro photo course. And it became very clear where I was spending all of my time. So that decision was sort of made for me as well. Okay, so we've got another question from Matt here, and he is asking, for those of you who own your own business, did you always have an entrepreneurial spirit, hate that word. I can't say it ever. An entrepreneurial spirit, and starting a business was a no-brainer, or did that come to you after you started a business?
I had my own like sole proprietorship while working at Elegant Seagulls. I've always had a do-it-yourself mentality, but in terms of being my own business owner, it was more out of survival. I had to get out of my mother-in-law's basement, and I needed to make money. And I wasn't making it at where I was at that time in my position there. There's no way. So it was more like, you know, there's things that have to happen, and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no way I would have ever chosen to be a business owner. Like, I mean, it's great and I love it now, but that was not something I was going to do. I was just like, I'm a teacher, I'm here for the children, like, don't ask me to do a spreadsheet, please. But I have just learned a way to make it work, because I found that I was really enjoying what I was doing and that people wanted to pay me to do it. And when that happens, you got to figure out how to do it legally and be successful and profitable if you're going to do it for real. So
yeah,
it never was my intention, but I feel I feel good about it now. I'm very happy to talk about business now.
You learned and grew as it went, right? Yeah, good. And how about you, Nika? I know you said that Michelle had approached you. Was owning your own business something you had thought about doing before?
It was something I was picturing on a very low-key scale. Like, okay, yeah, I'll come up with a logo and, you know, sell some mugs here and there. I wasn't by any means picturing anything like this. But I did grow up watching my parents run a business from the kitchen table. So there is that entrepreneurial side is just kind of in how I relate to the world. Like, it was always easy for me to think about, even in school, like production and then selling things, or like making products that people would like, but it was never fully my intention to be here now. And I think there's a lot of stuff I've learned as I went. I didn't take any business classes at Northern, so
yeah.
You learn as you go.
Yeah. I think there's a lot more, and this actually relates to this next question we have here. Are there classes at NMU that can help you learn how to make a living with your art? Tough question, because yes and no. So the art school, I'll sort of answer this since I'm, you know, teaching here and I know a little bit more about the curriculum. You know, we're an art and design school, so our focus is more on, you know, the skills and well, basically gaining the skills you need to make work within your medium or make art at large. But we also have courses that gear you towards professional development. What we don't necessarily have is like an art entrepreneurial, oh my God, like an art business course or anything like that. But we do have a lot of students these days who are, you know, majoring in art and then minoring in business or minoring in marketing or even minoring in entrepreneurship. That's the one word that I will never be able to say. So yes and no. There are classes at NMU that can help you learn how to make a living with your art, both by becoming an amazing artist in the art and design school and by learning how to be a great business person with perhaps a minor in business. Did you guys take any business classes when you were at Northern? All self-taught.
I did in 2005 when I was first enrolled. I did take a business course. Oddly enough, one of the guests in that class was John Spigarelli, who I now work with at Elegant Seagulls. It's real odd how that stuff plays out. But yeah, I did take the intro to business at NMU.
Yeah.
What I did was I never had an ACT or an SAT. So you can get, at the time, you can get enrolled without that by enrolling in the business school at NMU. And so that's what I did. Once I was enrolled, I was able to move around and I was able to, so I don't know if
that's good to know.
Yeah, but they helped me get enrolled that way at NMU.
little ways around things. Okay, let's see. How about, do you guys remember anything like a really exciting project you worked on while you were at a student at NMU? Anything that really sticks out in your mind as like the pinnacle of your educational experience? We all went through 303. I'm pretty sure we got some students in here wondering about that.
I think, you know, the one thing that I found is that those projects, while I think they were the most related to my field, I didn't get as much joy out of them because it was so stressful.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I found actually like the kinetic typography or motion graphics stuff to be the most fun because I had no expectations. It wasn't where I was looking to go. And then the photography courses were the other one, you know, with you, Christine, and then with Dennis, rest in peace. Both those classes were really wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you were a joy to have in class as well. The only one I didn't get to have my hands on is Nika never took a course with me.
It's not because I did not try.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
If you'll have me back, I'll come back.
Perfect. Excellent. Not that
did.
you didn't make appearances in my class in B's photographs every once in a while. And then I got to enjoy you, Sabrina, you know, after you had graduated. But yeah. Anyway.
Teacher.
What'd you say?
I said I had to have you as a teacher, so I had to come back. Yeah.
Oh, go on. Did you guys have any exciting projects or anything that really stands out as a pinnacle of your educational experience?
Well, I will say that actually taking alternative photography was a big aha moment for me, because I think before then I was just kind of like, I mean, I was taking pictures and then I was just like, this matches the assignment, whatever, and like printing it. I wasn't as intentional in what I was doing. And I think doing alternative processes, like you had to be intentional. You had to be there. It was like a very present kind of process. And I think it also helped that it was more hands-on and more painterly. It just kind of, I don't know, really spoke to me as a artistic, creative person. And I think that was the first time where I was trying to like really say things with my work. And I think those kinds of courses, once I started working in that medium, really taught me how to create feeling in my work. And I think that's something that still informs me now, even though I'm not shooting film on wedding dates, because that would be insane. People do it, but not me. I feel like that idea of like getting the feeling of a moment, I feel like really started happening with alternative processes. So both times,
I remember
before and after.
Yeah, there you go. Both times. With both Christines, right?
Yes, both Christines.
Yeah, I remember that sort of aha moment when I was in undergrad of like, oh, my art can actually mean something. Like it's not just, you know, like pretty, but I can actually like have a message that I'm trying to put out in the world. That was, definitely important. Yeah. How about you, Nika?
I would say 303 and 403 stand out to me the most. The 303 is like, I feel like my best project that I did in terms of just being able to like fully cohesively complete something. Not to mention that 403 just happened in the middle of a pandemic. So that was a curveball no one was expecting. But because it was the first time I could really start putting like my own thoughts to my work, and it's messy in that way because, you know, all this time you're like just following guidelines, and now you're like have all the freedom in the world to do what you want. So I found that really challenging, and they're the hardest projects I worked on, but also that exciting. That's when I started discovering things kind of just in my process and started making those a part of my process and my work. And that's when things got really exciting, and the most challenging and also the most fun. 303 was a freaking blast. I had so much fun doing that project and presenting.
I think, you know, so Chris is talking about it being super stressful. You're talking about it being really exciting. I think there's this like hazing ritual that happens with 303, where like as you approach it, everyone who's been through it is like, oh my God, it's the worst. It's so scary. And then as you go through it and you're done with it, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad, was it?
It's really empowering also it's the first time you get to stand up fully as an artist in front of, professors as well, and have an intellectual conversation about your work, which it's just a beautiful opportunity in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who are with us who may not be in, hi, I'm about to answer your question, Tessa, who may not be in the art program or have gone through it. 303 is individual art review. So when I'm talking to students who are maybe thinking about coming to Northern, I kind of talk about it like, like nursing students have like a test or a class or something they have to take in order to continue on in their nursing program. And this is sort of like our test like that. So students work closely with their advisor on either tightening up their work or producing a portfolio, and then present it to a panel of faculty where they sort of defend the choices they made within their work, talk about the ideas within their work, and why they made certain decisions that they made. 403, which is now actually called 499, is our capstone class where students make a project that gets put up in the museum, the DeVos Art Museum. We've got a question from Jane Milkey for Nika. Does learning from your study abroad influence your work presently?
Yes, in so many ways. So for those of you who don't know, I got to go to Romania as part of the Erasmus exchange program with Northern. And that experience changed my life. And I think it touched me more in internal ways and just how I orient and can work with the world, more so than my like ceramic art, so to speak. But that whole time changed my life so deeply. And I think getting to see other ways of working, like NMU is so amazing in its function and as a school, but it's also one way of doing things. And so to go across the ocean and see a whole other way, sorry, my dog's playing, to see a whole other way of working was really eye-opening, and kind of trying to still find that balance of how can I bring that culture and that way of work with a lot of space and contemplation, but also that community. Not right now, honey. Was so beautiful, and the work that I made coming back was really where I started to solidify, I would say, more of my artistic self, which I hope to revisit back in the future when I'm not just a first-year art student. Or art student, I am a first-year art student, a first-year life student of business.
I love that, a first-year life student. That's good. Okay, so another question from Jane Melky for Chris. How much of your work presently is back-end coding or front-end design?
Right now, not much. If you asked me that 4 months ago, still too much. It's just that's been my biggest struggle at my career at Elegant Seagulls is my skills as a front-end developer and back-end developer. If you don't know, that's the actual building, it's the actual code, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, integrations with content management systems like WordPress and stuff. That's such a big base of my skill set. It's been really hard to get me out of there. And every time there's employee churn or anything like that, I get pulled right back in. So that was a big thing that happened like last year into this year's. I don't want to do it anymore. I can't do it anymore because you have to dedicate so much of your time to learning all the new technologies and the new things that are coming out. So my hopeful answer is not much anymore, but a lot of it was still. So yeah.
I've been recently creating a website to house some like family images, and teaching myself to do a little bit of coding with Squarespace. Hats off to you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It just takes time, and that's the one thing that you have less and less of. The more you just have so much less time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more question from Jane Milkey for Sabrina. Do you miss your students, or what do you miss most about teaching?
Good question. I do miss most of my students. No, I loved all my students. I think what I miss most about teaching was the kind of community aspect of it. I miss being like in the coffee room with my coworkers, or like working together to like put on an event together for our students, that kind of thing. But I think I've been able to find how to do that with my photography community. And I'm also, in my business, I am growing, working with contractors who are also working underneath the Sabrina Lee Studios brand. And so now talking about, didn't expect to be a business owner. I never expected to be a boss or a manager, but here I am. But doing that, I'm finding that kind of like love and excitement of like doing something together, having a shared vision. And I'm really excited about making sure that it's like a good experience for them, and like we're working together and it's a collaboration. And so I do miss that about teaching, but I am able to find that in new ways. And I have students who come to my photography workshops, and I do one-on-one mentoring a lot. So education is still a big part of my life, even though it's not in the standard public school setting anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet some of your skill set that you learned at Northern helps you manage those expectations from your employees too, right? Or your coworkers. Yeah. Excellent. Got another question here from Matt, and this is for everybody. How do you guys approach consistency in your work? In
my industry, it's all about systems. You have these set systems in place to make sure the end result is what you want it to be. So, and it's called quality assurance, is when you put the website through all of its paces to make sure it's ADA compliant, if that's a requirement for the project, if everything's working as anticipated, is it working across devices, whether that laptop, phone, or whatever. There's that. Now, if we're talking about design, there's design and UX patterns that you want to be consistent with as well, because that's the expected behavior. When somebody comes to a website, they expect it to function a certain way. Then there's moments where you want to break that, whether for visual interest to drive, the eye to a certain part of the website, and things like that. Oftentimes, what I'm trying to do is break the consistency of the web stuff in my own visual design, because web design tends to be so consistent. So in terms of a systems part, you want it really consistent. In terms of a design or visual design, that's always a challenge. Like, it just starts to feel samey after a while, which is for a good reason, but it's a little bit complicated. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. How about you two?
Well, in photography, and especially the kind of work that I do, I think consistency comes a lot from my understanding of light. And so I've taken, a lot of it is just experience of shooting a lot. And also I am big on like taking educational courses. I learned a lot at NMU, and I'm still learning. Like every single year I buy like 1 or 2 courses that I do in my off season to just be better at my craft. And so lighting is something that I have worked really hard to perfect. And so I think that makes it easier that my photography looks consistent across the board, because I know how I like to use light, and I use it in a consistent way. And I have a signature light, I guess. I really like diffused backlighting. So there's that. I mean, also with photography, there are presets to make consistent color editing. And so that's something that I've had to cultivate over a really long time, that now I use one preset that goes on all of my color images to make them have similar color tones. And so the mixture of the lighting and the post-processing helps to keep things consistent.
Yeah, excellent.
So cool, Sabrina. I'm like,
Yeah.
Depending on how I answer that question, I do slip cast molds for a lot of the pottery here. So in that process in and of itself is very consistent, because you're using the same mold over and over again. There is still hand processing and cleaning within that. And so just like continually doing the same process over and over, coming up with a system of how you do things. Like, this is how we clean this piece and this is how we fire it, however that works. And then with my wheel thrown pottery, again, it's just that consistency of throwing so many mugs. At some point, you just start to land on a style, or your hands make this certain set of shapes, and little signatures in it. So a lot of my pieces have a little spiral in the bottom. And at some point, your hands, once they are making a movement and keep doing it with however many 10,000 moves to become a master at it, it becomes consistent just because you follow those same forms over and over again. And that just takes a lot of time and time spent with your medium. But I think that's the easiest way for consistency, because you don't think about it then.
Nice. I think I'm gonna flip this question to from Tessa. So she's asking what the benefits of going to a school of art and design versus a liberal arts school with an art major. But you guys have all gone to a liberal arts college with an arts major. So what do you think the benefits of going to a liberal arts college with an arts major is versus going to like what you might know of a school of just art and design? Like, why get the sort of liberal arts education along with the art education?
I think, part of that before, let's go back really quick, just before college education, is when I was doing youth development with the Boys and Girls Clubs, you had a bunch of programs. So we did Passport to Manhood, Healthy Habits. We had a digital arts program, music making program. You had your PE, your gym classes, organized sports, all of that. That variety informed everything else. So you have like this melting pot of different people with different interests. And the program was ran to encourage you to participate in as much variety as you could. And you'd earn things by doing that, right? So by getting that exposure to a lot of different things, so when we're talking about, from a liberal arts school perspective, all that stuff informs your work, and you can be a better coworker. You can be, you can think about your process differently. You can look at things from different angles. So when you're planning strategy and you're looking at different businesses and trying to solve their problems, you learn a lot more empathy. So I feel like that empathy is what kind of it strengthened everything I was doing in the art and design school versus just approaching it from an art and design perspective as if I already knew what I wanted to do when I got there. So for me, that's how it played into it.
Love that answer. It's perfect. It's going in our marketing. Do you guys have any thoughts on why a liberal arts education versus just going to a school of art?
I very much agree with Chris. I think I considered going to art school, but I think I was a little worried about like limiting myself, because I knew I really liked art, but I was just like, what if I don't want it for my career though? What if I like start doing it and I really don't want to like do that? I just want it to be a hobby for me. I don't want to limit myself that way. And even though it did turn out that like art was what I ended up doing, I think it's also the people that I ended up interacting with. Like a lot of my friends ended up being outdoor rec and leadership students, or like environmental studies, and I feel like that's just really formed kind of like my group and like the people that end up hanging out with. I mean, also friends with lots of artists too, but I think like that kind of is built into my business, and this, you know, it's a very like adventurous kind of brand. And um you know, and I care a lot about like sustainability and like my personal life. It's something I want to introduce into my brand as like a part of it. So I feel like all those things just kind of help you to be like more well-rounded, just like what Chris was saying.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent.
Yeah, I don't really know if I have anything else to add to both of that because I would fully agree. I think there's probably beauties of going solely to an art and design school in terms of you get to spend more time going down a rabbit hole or a couple rabbit holes. But I know that for me, the expanse of my experiences has made me have the skills to do what I do now. Like I was a Radio X manager for a couple years, and those skills from doing that and working with music definitely inform how I run my business now. So yeah, all of those experiences add in. And I think as an artist, I know for me, I can't create in a vacuum. And so going to a sociology class or a history class and reading about and learning about such a wide breadth of things really helped inform where I can situate my work in a much larger picture rather than just the conversation of art and design.
Yeah, when I'm giving tours to potential students, I'll basically touch on everything you guys just talked about. The idea of you know, the extra classes, taking a history class or taking a music class, or, you know, a gender studies course, or whatever it is that you might be interested in. That knowledge that you gain from those courses not only make you a more well-rounded person, but also can help inform your art, right? Getting that more in-depth knowledge. Yeah, excellent. Great questions from you guys out there in the audience. I'm going to ask one last question here as we come close to 8 o'clock. And all of you guys have talked about community. And so I am wondering how you feel your work impacts either the community that you live in, the community that you work in. How do you feel like you fit into that community, and how are you impacting it?
For me, that's been a really a hard thing to balance. It's been a challenge because it's not my business, so I don't get to make the as many of the choices. As a freelancer, though, I had an opportunity to do a site for the Michigan Herp Atlas, which is kind of a conservation website where you can, if you see like a turtle or whatever, you log it and you record the record for it. And then that data is stored, and it helps conservation efforts because you can see where species are migrating to and where they're moving to. And I did it at a super huge discount. It was very difficult. It's one of those things where you're like, why did I commit to this? But in the end, it was like all the extra time, all the extra effort. It was really worth it in the end. And there's decisions we had to compromise on because of time and budget, but it felt so fulfilling to do that work, because you know it's going to do, it's something really important, and it's used by the Michigan DNR. And so that's one of the things that I want to see myself doing more of in the future. And those opportunities do happen at my job. It's just a lot more seldom than you might expect after doing it for 10 years. So yeah.
That sounds like an awesome project, like a very cool project.
It was awesome, and we're going to be continuing doing more work for the individual who runs that. And so I've just been really excited about it. And then after that, I don't know how much more freelance I can take for a while, but once I, but I'm very excited about it.
Very cool. Sabrina?
Oh man, I feel like I could say so many things, but I guess like in like the micro communities of just like the clients that I'm serving, I think like the energy that I bring to a wedding day or a shoot or anything like that is really important, and making sure that they're getting the best possible experience. Like on a wedding day, I'm celebrating with them, and I am, rejoicing in their like relationship. And that's why I like being a relationship photographer. I think being in a relationship can be challenging. And so just the fact of being able to photograph people and show them like how beautiful their life is, their family is, all that kind of stuff, I think that matters on like a more individual level, because one of my core values is my relationships that are around me, and valuing relationships, helping other people value theirs is really important. And then in a more like wider scale, always, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, that there are so many people that were willing to take me under their wing and kind of show me things and just be a good mentor. And so that's something I believe in heavily paying forward. And so being involved in a few different organizations like the Market Artist Collective or the Rising Tide Society, which is for like business entrepreneurs, having like those meetups, getting to know other entrepreneurs in the area, and just being able to be there for each other and share stories, I think is really important. And so if anybody out there is like interested in attending any of those things, message me, because I think getting to know other people in your community and is just so helpful. So
I don't know if either of those groups have websites, but if they do and you want to share it in the chat, feel free.
For sure.
How about you, Nika?
Community is definitely a super important part of anything for me. There's like a couple different pieces of how I want to answer that question. One is within the shop here, I have other local artists who showcase their work. So they're kind of also supporting my brand, and I'm giving them a storefront as well, and trying to just give them really great commission rates and all of that, in that way of like building up the community of how many amazing creatives there are in our area. So giving back in that way and kind of holding each other's hands. That's what I think of when I think of community, is like helping each other instead of all just being in our own little cubicles and like hide and don't look. And so I really enjoy, helping lift other people up in whatever way I can. And within a larger context, I'm also wanting to move towards some coaching and healing work, and continually like that conscious living, moving out in these larger circles. And so I also want my work in ceramics and my work in business, just what I'm producing and putting out in the world, can also echo again like a deeper mission and a deeper place. And I feel like that happens in community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tapping into that community of healing, of conscious living, of being authentic, of gathering around really good food and eating it off of handmade wares with friends. Like all of that is a part of what I hope to be touching on in what I do.
Awesome. Well, I am super pumped to have caught up with all three of you tonight. It's been really great to chat with you. And I think I'm gonna throw it back to Kylie here for a little outro.
Thanks, Christine. And thanks, Chris, Sabrina, and Nika. This was amazing, really fun conversation and great to listen to. Thank you all for joining us. And then everyone, thank you all for tuning in as well. We look forward to continuing this series next month. Keep up with us on nmu.edu/alumni for some upcoming events. Follow us on social. Also, we'll be sending out a short survey tomorrow where you can tell us how you liked the event, what we can improve on, and any topics that you might want to hear about in the future. We'll also be choosing one winner from tonight's attendees to receive a free alumni t-shirt, so make sure you keep your eye on your email. Any follow-up questions that you think of, you can send them to alumni@nmu.edu. And thank you again for joining us, everyone. We hope to see you again soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Everyone, it was a pleasure. Bye-bye.